Hey guys, it's Pig here. Just going to be doing a really quick vlog, keeping you guys updated on what I've been up to. I know for a lot of people I've kind of dropped off the face of the universe because I haven't been streaming for quite a while, not very often anyway, haven't been out there at these overseas events, so I'm going to just kind of zoom through what I've been up to for the last month. First of all, I went to EB Expo, big convention in Sydney, really cool event, all sorts of games there. Met a lot of fans, got to play some show matches, got to write my name in Creep Tumors, was probably the highlight of the event for me, as well as checking out some of the other games like BF4 that are going to be released soon. Actually, that did just get released. Also, while I was there, promoted NVIDIA and Gigabyte notebooks. That was pretty much that weekend. It was pretty exciting. It was just a really cool event. I love going to those sort of conventions. That was a lot of fun. Following that up, I basically went to the Warcraft event down at the Blizzard offices in Sydney, did a bit of socialising, we had a few drinks, had some pizza, watched some StarCraft, watched some Hearthstone, which I still have zero understanding of what's going on in that game, and I don't really care to invest my time in it. Not because I'm against the game, just because I don't have time outside of StarCraft and some RPGs I've been playing on the side. But yeah, I'm also going to be kind of going into a replay a little bit later in this vlog and just looking at this game between me and Iaguz, because basically we played ACL Sydney a couple of weeks ago. It was actually the day after that Warcraft event, so I'm just going to start playing this replay and we'll just kind of hop into that while I continue talking about the rest of my month. So at ACL Sydney, that was kind of, I guess, the pinnacle tournament for this month for me. It was a lot of excitement, it was a lot of fun. It was kind of something I was so eager to do because my tournament performances this year, I feel like I've really let myself down in them. I feel like there's been a lot of almost really good finishes, almost this, almost that. There hasn't been anything that's really closed it out. And so I really do feel like there's two problems, and obviously training can always be improved, and that's one of them. The other is also my tournament mindset. So that's something I was really working on, improving my own mindset in games, not getting tilted. And I was really eager to kind of show it off here at ACL Sydney. I ended up coming second in the tournament. I did come first in my group, going 5-0 in sets, though I did drop quite a few games. I then beat Moonglade in the round of 8, 2-0. I then played this series against Iaguz, which I did end up winning 3-2. It was very close. But then in the finals, I got completely owned by King Kong, formerly of StarTale. Some of you might have heard of him. Everyone in Australia knows who he is because he has been winning so many tournaments this year. He's on Avant Gaming at the moment, and he smashed me. So that was really kind of like, hey, I finally overcame my problems with Terran, finally beat Iaguz after losing to him in so many tournaments this year. But then to go from that to losing to King Kong in the finals was really upsetting for me. So since then, I guess, kind of rounding out the month for me, all that I did do was start streaming again. Once the tournament was over, I didn't need to hide builds. I didn't want to be worried about revealing builds and all that sort of stuff, which is part of why I wasn't really practicing on stream. But I started streaming again. I've been playing a bit of ladder. I've been coaching quite a bit. Unfortunately, quite a few people are kind of a bit more private with their coaching lately, and they'd rather me not stream it. So I haven't been able to stream as much coaching as I would like. And also, when I've been laddering on my stream, I've been getting quite a bit of lag, so it has been making it a little bit harder for me to be as consistent, to be as entertaining, getting a little bit frustrated, but hopefully that will fade away, because it used to be completely fine when I streamed, so it's probably just a temporary thing, and I will be getting back into the swing of it very soon. So anyway, that's pretty much everything I got up to this month. We might as well just take a look at this game then. And the reason I'm showing this game is because it's one I'm very proud of, and I think it's also one of the most exciting games in terms of watching, where it's one where it was very back and forwards, there was a lot of aggression. I think there was quite a lot of mistakes made on both sides. So I'm just going to kind of, like I said before, semi-cast the game, kind of talk about it. I'm not going to go into too much depth, kind of revealing my mindset in all its details, but I am going to give some insights to the matchup, and most importantly just talk about why this game ends up how it does. So early on we do have a Reaper Hellion opening, and I believe I went the just delayed gas. I don't think I got a single fast gas. I'm not exactly sure. But I've got the 3 queens here. They're kind of holding off the Reaper Hellion, doing pretty well with that. Now if we look at my vision, I've seen a starport and a barracks and a factory, so it does look like he is going to be going for some sort of Banshee play. So we've got a Spore Crawler up here, and we don't have any Spore Crawlers anywhere else. I think I wasn't quite sure what he was doing. I knew he had a Viking clearing up Overlords over here on the right hand side of the map. And yeah, the truth of the matter is that he was basically doing the Pulp build. You can see he's got the fast second barracks, he's going to have a fast stim, a couple Marauders, couple Marines, a couple Medevacs, and a Widow Mine. That on top of the Hellions and Reapers, which are already out, it's a very, very powerful timing attack right around the 10-minute mark that it hits. And you can see that pushing out now. I don't have any idea. My Zergling's just come up to scout, see if there's any move out, but he's actually just boosted over this bit of grey. Really clever move from him. And meanwhile, I'm just kind of macroing up. I'm actually about to drone up to 65 workers over his 45. I've only got 15 Zerglings on the map. I've got Zerglings poking the front. I see the third command center. I'm not really worried about anything. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, third CC is almost done. Let's just build a few Zerglings. We'll be fine. And you can see here, this attack just totally caught me off guard. So this was a really, really nice move by Iagos. This was the second game in the series, and he's just coming in here, bam, and you can see just cleaning up those Zerglings so cost efficiently. I'm finally focus firing the Medevacs, but the hatchery's already gone down, and even though both these Medevacs will eventually fall, I've lost so many units here. We'll bring up that units lost tab in a second. Luckily, both the Medevacs are down, so he can't just keep picking up and dropping and healing. And my Zerglings are just trailing in, and they are going down really, really fast. So I did lose about 400 more resources than him there, but most importantly, I've now got all these drones on my third base unable to mine. I've plopped my third base back down again. I'm pretty sure when I was in game at this point, I kind of just, my heart sank. I was like, oh, against someone as good as Iagos, you don't come back from this sort of situation. It just doesn't happen. That being said, you know, I was still determined to kind of try my heart out. So I still had good creep spread on the plus side. My third base was going to get back down soon, and my Spire is about to finish. So, despite things not being the best, I still have some good advantages. I've got faster upgrades. I've got Mutalisks on the way as early as 11 minutes 30. I am going to be able to take a fourth base soon, and Iagos still hasn't secured his third. So it's actually relatively even for the moment. That being said, Iagos' production has really beefed up, so he's going to have a huge swell of units in the next 2 minutes, and he will get way ahead in supply. But this push here is just continuing the pressure, pushing back my creep, making sure I don't have a fourth. Nice snipe on his Widow Mine I got there, but I do not want to overcommit. I need to wait for my Banelings, but he's going in, sniping some drones in the mineral line, getting some guaranteed damage, and picking up and just zooming out of there. So cost efficient from Iagos. This is what happens if you don't have enough units to just crush the Terran forces. They can just poke around non-committally and be so cost efficient. Now luckily during that, I think a Zergling or two did do a little bit of damage up there. Looks like I've only killed 2 workers though. So I'm only up by 2 workers at this point. It is 3 base versus 3 base. I'm going to take my 4th, and things have gotten really messy here. So I'm going to fast forward for a little bit, I believe, and we're going to just take a look at this situation. So as a Zerg in this situation, you really need to just focus on taking good, cost-efficient engagements. Keep your creep spread going, no matter what. Every time he clears up your creep spread it back out, and go for counterattacks. Try and get some nice damage with that. So this is some really nice damage. My Muters in the main trying to get something done, but there's nothing they can really do. But just wasting the mining time up here, picking off a few more SCVs, another 5 workers, is actually really good. Getting a Marine or 2 for my trouble as well. Going for this SCV. And the Muters going back in. Unfortunately, I do lose a Mutalisk there just for a couple of Marines. Not a good trade. And through this, Iagos has masterfully slipped a drop into my main base. So you can see here that supply difference I was talking about in terms of I'm not spending my money quite well because I'm trying to multi-prong, but he's also putting pressure back on me, but also because those reactors have kicked in. And you can see these huge swells of units starting to come out now. The Marine Marauder really, the count is just climbing so high. The thing is, you can come back from behind in supply against Biomine. You just need to play a little bit better than your opponent. And that's something which is completely possible. I know Ghosty is someone who says that it's almost standard to be behind in supply in this matchup. I don't really agree with that. I feel like if you play really well economically, you cannot fall behind. But there we go, the 4th base goes down again. If you look at my army, I just didn't have enough Zerglings to actually take a fight. Once I'd morphed Banelings, it's like I didn't have any units left over. So all I'm going to do here is try and catch him on the way back, but if he's ready for it, I'll pull back. But he isn't. He was looking away from his army for just a second. A little bit sloppy play from him, and we do take down that whole army really cost efficiently. So if we look at the units lost tab now, only behind by about 500-600 resources, and I'm just going to try and rebuild that 4th base and just try to keep building my mute account, and I'm just going to really try and get to a position where I have a strong army during what I call the timing. Now the timing in Zerg vs Terran when you're playing Muta Zergling, which exists in every game and is the point which you're most powerful, is when you have 2-2 and your opponent doesn't have 3-3 yet. That's what I call the timing, and I think it's when Zergs are meant to secure a big advantage in the matchup, or potentially even win the game. So you can see here, I still do have some time before Iagos does get his 3-3. He's on 2-1 at the moment, his +2 arm is going to be finishing soon. If I can just secure, say, a whole base ahead in economy, take a good fight or two, even if I'm down in upgrades, I should be okay. I should be able to make it happen with good positioning. And this is a great map for counter-attacking, burrowing banelings and all that sort of stuff. So you can see now everything that's going on here, and why it is kind of a game I'm kind of proud of is because I have been on the back foot. He has been slipping drops in. He's been denying my 4th. And being on just 6 gases, you have so little room for error. You can see here going for another engage I saw his army was not the largest, so I did go for that. And that was actually super cost efficient. He actually had split his army here. You can see he's done a double drop down here, and I actually spotted it coming, and that's why I chose to engage there. I didn't feel like that was the best position, but knowing he had a double drop here, I knew I couldn't split my army and deal with both effectively. I wouldn't be able to micro against the mines properly. So I annihilated one army, and then I annihilated the other, and I lost very little units in this. You might think I lost, the lair, and that's bad, and it is bad. But it's not as bad as losing as many units as I could have. If we actually bring up the units lost tab, I'm actually ahead over 1,000 units lost at this point. So Iagos' choice to split his units there, he actually did not execute it as well as he needed to. He actually needed to go for drones, get in the natural, do some more critical damage than just killing my lair. Because as it is, this didn't pay for itself. Either that, or he needed to stick his whole army together and just micro it a little bit better and take a frontal engagement. But now the game's getting a little bit closer, and now the Mutalisks are getting in for the harass. As soon as this happens, once you've got 30 Mutalisks like I do here, you can start killing barracks. It is just awesome. You can do so much damage. I could have actually overpowered that squad of Marines, no problem. That's actually a little bit of a mistake pulling back there. Having sniped off the Widow Mines as they were popping out, there's actually, his base is wide open. I'm also counterattacking with a few Zerglings here. Always just little non-committal Zergling counterattacks to force greedy Terrans to lose workers and to, split up their army is so effective. And we're reaching that stage of the game now where the timing is disappearing. He has +3 attack, but luckily he's still splitting his army up too much and letting me kill these squads of units. I'm distracting him with these Zerglings, and while they're not doing huge damage themselves, they're splitting his attention, and so he's making mistakes. It's really, at this point, it's not a game of what I have and does it beat what he has. It's how much pressure can I put on him, and will he make some mistakes due to that. You can see me taking some really bad Widow Mine shots there, but going in for the counterattack and just trying to trade on his units and get damage done and open up holes while my Mutalisk count is so strong. At this point, it's something where you'll notice I've actually got a lot of map control. Despite him being up in upgrades and having the army supply lead in most of the situations in this game, that has gone down now, he's lost map control, and this allows me to just kind of dictate the pace of the battle. This army, I have no banelings with it, and yet I'm pulling him home and buying myself more time for my 4th base economy to pick off. I'm getting damage done, and all I'm going to lose here is about 20 Zerglings. This is just a great trade. As he's out of position, these other Zerglings come in, start picking up all these SCVs. And then my Mutalisks come down, they do take out a turret, but the Marines are right on their tails, so they have to pull out. Now I've lost a lot of units there, and he still has a 4th base, and I know a lot of Zergs panic when the Terran gets the 4th. I know I do. Part of the reason I was so proud of winning this game is because he did actually have this 4th base, and I could never really deny it. That's something where, if a Terran manages to do that, it seems very scary. But as long as you can stay strong with your unit movements, there's always a way with Mutiling Bane to just abuse Bio-Mine, because they just can't be everywhere at once, and your army is so much faster than theirs. As long as you keep spreading creep, they can't really push in. Notice how the Terran has to push with this half-assed, slow spreading their army. My army could dart into his natural right now and do huge damage. And if he comes all the way onto creep, I can just clean up his army in a frontal engagement. This is kind of the strength of Zerg. Even though I'm down 2 upgrades, I still feel strong in this position because he's so far on creep. Sending in a small squad of Lingbane at the front to kill some Marines, to take some Widowmine shots, and once I've popped out a lot of those shots, once I've cleaned up some of his units, that's when I come in with the rest of my units and go in for the really cost-efficient engagement. You can see that because I've done all these counterattacks, his reinforce is actually quite weak at this point. I've killed so many workers, up to 33 at this point, that he actually pulled back from going into my 4th base there. And even though I'm only on 60 drones at this point, and I'm not even thinking of building any more, I have this Mutaflock, and he doesn't have what he needs to hold it off. At this point, Iaguz knows that if he builds more turrets in his main base, his army is going to be too small, and he can't defend his 4th, his 3rd, or his natural. So this is kind of the dilemma that good Mutiling Bane counterattacks kind of put a Terran player in. You really just want to force them into bad positions. You basically say, hey, this is wide open, you've got to commit units here. But this, on its own, a planetary and a few turrets don't defend a base. You've got to commit Widow Mines here, you've got to have your units able to get here. And especially on bigger maps, how does the Terran possibly cover all of them? Well, they actually just can't do it. At this point, I actually should be being more aggressive. I should be counterattacking up into his main base with my mutas a lot faster than what I'm doing here. I'm being a little bit pansy. That's the best way to describe what's going on. But the thing is, you know, I'm on such a low worker count, just a 65. I built a few more to get that back up a little bit. But I'm coming in here, gonna snipe off this orbital, and I should go for the starport in the factory. Yeah, if you can cut off their medevac and mine stuff, then this is fantastic. And a lot of players worry about the frontal push, but even if your main army is too small to engage properly, you just keep sending small squads of Ling Bane into their army, and you actually do very, very well. Now here I am getting a little bit distracted at this point. You'll notice I am engaging down here, while he wasn't looking, but I lost so many mutas in the main base because I was staring at my army. At the same time though, he lost so many units down here because he wasn't looking at his attacking force. So there's always this push and pull of who's looking at which fight, because the battles are so fast-paced in Zerg vs Terran. And okie doke. So at this point we can see I got a 65 drone economy. I don't want to take a 5th base because it is this map. And at this point I'm saying, you know what? Though I've been taking out his buildings, his infrastructure, his orbitals. If I can just keep playing this game, I'm still on 2-2. +2 air attack, 2-2 on my ground. He's been on 3-3 this whole time. But I say it doesn't matter. As long as I keep pulling him around, stabbing in and cutting off his infrastructure, I can play this game and I can just be more cost efficient on 4 base. And you can see that I have been 2,000 units lost more efficient. And I am going to be going back up to about 33, 34 Mutalisks soon. And even though my ground army is quite small, I do have Burrow now. I can start trying to burrow Banelings around, which I am doing a little bit. And it's just so hard for a Terran player. Once there's been all this back and forth, this 4th base is going to mine out in a couple minutes. You know, it's still got some minerals left on it, but he's got to use a lot of these minerals to replace his production, to replace his orbitals that I'm sniping. And you can see all this reflected, whoa, in the fact that I am still ahead in supply. So by no means is my army stronger, but it is more mobile, and so we can always play the mobility game all day. You'll notice I'm already pulling my drones from my 4th and sending them to this base. I'm already choosing to sacrifice it while going for a huge counterattack. And he's actually frozen up here and sent his whole army home. He's so afraid of this attack rather than going to kill my 4th. And the thing is, I can just pull out of here once this fighting's done. So you'll notice I always send some units to kind of try and pick off the units as they trickle back in. But the most of my units are trying to get that critical damage done. And if you use squads of Banelings to come back, oh, you can just see, if they're not watching, they misclick a little bit, you can get some really nice hits. And meanwhile, all of his production's going down. And I've just forced him to kind of attack into me, where his Widow Mines weren't useful. He's got this timer on where he has to come, and on how quickly he has to return to fight. And so he has to just kind of go, go, go. The longer he waits, the easier it is for me to just do a tactical pull-out after doing free damage. And that's why Widow Mines, while powerful, they're not as powerful as people like to complain about, in terms of if you can pull the Terran out of position, if there are holes in his defenses, if the map has enough space on it. Oh, I just lost so many Mutalisks to those Widow Mines, and now the Marines are coming back, and I wasn't looking, I was looking at home defending that, and I lose all of my Mutalisks just as I was in a game-winning position. So, you can see why this game was so interesting. I pulled him apart for so long, and then there was that one point where I was the one that got distracted by his counterattack. I was busy dealing with these Widow Mines and my mineral line and whatnot, using my rallying units to deal with his small squad, and just a few seconds looking away, those 2 Widow Mines popped out of the factory, they blasted my mutas, they all got down to really low life, and just a few 3-3 Marines finished them all off. And at this point, I'm actually down in army supplies so much that if he just A-moved me at this point, he may have been able to overwhelm. But the thing I've got going for me is that I still have creep spread. I am replacing this base, and even though he's moving in here, you know, I'm in a decent position. Slightly. I have 4k gas in the bank. This is what happens when you never get that 5th base mining on minerals until after your 4th dies. Things get really, really tricky. So he comes in here without me even seeing it. My map control did falter quite a lot there, and I do kind of come in for this engage. Just not the best spreads from me, but I do clean up all his Widow Mines, and I keep the base mining with about 12 drones, which is actually quite major because every little bit of mining at this point counts. Igo's on the other hand doing something really smart. He's actually pumping out Hellbats now because he knows that in these low econ situations, especially where I don't have Mutalisks up, they are so good at absorbing Baneling hits. They're so good at just taking hits from the Zerglings, just getting them all to clump up. And you can see my units. I'm just trying to, once again, even though I know I can't fight his army, I'm moving my units aggressively because I know as soon as I pull back, he can just push into my bases. And that's going to be game because I'll have to fight him front on then. But if before he even gets to my base, I'm already backstabbing, this is going to be way, way more effective. You notice I'll always click some of the Zerglings on the Widow Mine straight away. Try and get that down. And once again, if I can pick off this production, he can't keep building the Hellbats, the Widow Mines, the Marines. Terran production is always one of their weak points. It's one of the best things to kill. These aren't even 3-3 cracklings, they are just +2 Zerglings, but you can see they do a lot of damage. You can also, at this point in the game where you've picked off some orbitals, use Burrow, just to keep burrowing Zerglings everywhere. You just keep splitting them up, focusing buildings down, up here focusing some workers down. Unfortunately going to lose those Zerglings. And what is this doing? It's buying time for this base to mine. And I am actually building up my Mutalisk count. I'm up to 8 Mutalisks, building 2 more, and that's exactly what I need. This is really clever. He doesn't want to use a scan, or he doesn't have a scan. So he just burrows a Widow Mine next to the Zerglings, knowing that as they unburrow, they'll probably get blasted by it. So I've come up here again, once again, being aggressive with just tiny amounts of units. If you can get it into this situation where you're constantly trading, it's just so hard for Terran to cover absolutely everywhere, and it actually does become a really, really good situation. You can see I keep selecting these, that's just because they're still on my army hotkey. It's not like I'm actually staring at them constantly in-game. And I've actually managed to buy enough time with these counterattacks once again to be like, okay, I've got 12 Mutalisks up, now let's go back to Lingbane, because I'm going to have to hold this push. I probably should have been counterattacking more here, but I think I felt like, okay, I think I can just hold on now, just barely. And if you look at it, Iagos is mining, he has about 300 minerals left in patches. I come forward here, and you'll notice I always do that same micro. The cost-efficient Lingbane muta micro is you send forward some Banelings and some Zerglings with your mutas, even though I've only got 12 mutas, and the mutas try and snipe off an expensive unit or two, while your opponent's spreading and potentially taking big hits from the Lingbaneling. And this also makes the Widow Mine shots ineffective. You can see here, I did it there once again, came in with some of my stuff. Once I saw that he was kind of crumbling under it and his Widow Mine shots were going off, I brought in the rest of my Lingbane. And it's still so tight here because I literally am only building like 18 Zerglings. I just put my drones back on mining then. That's my only base mining, and you know, everything's still so hard at this point. He's still got Widow Mine set up down here, which is absolutely massive for him because I don't actually have any Banelings, Overseers, sorry. And this game has just gotten to that point where it's like, it's so frustrating because I was in such a good position, but losing all those mutas to those Widow Mines is just so painful. And at this point, I know that just going in for an engage is bad unless I really pick it well. So you can see I spread my units really carefully. I'm chasing the Marines down because they're the only things which can kill the Mutalisks. And I know that this is his very last ditch. I've got Overlords pooping creep on his new bases. I know his 4th base has to be almost completely out of mining, and it is completely out. All he's got is 200 minerals left in his 3rd base. All he can build is a few Marines and Hellbats. And I've still got a full base mining here. So if you bring up the income tab, I am at triple his income. It's still not a lot, but I've brought my queens off as well to transfuse the Mutalisks. And this is just such a sick way for a game to finish. Me and I guys have had a lot of epic games over the last few months, but this is the first time that I actually came out on top of. He would always be the one to win it. So it was really fun. And oh, this last attack is still so fucking scary. You can see the army supply is still even, and he's actually going to take this base down. That's my last mining. But I know that it doesn't matter. I know that he's out of mining, and this is his last army. So I know all I have to do is not get excited, not engage into this until, look, he's clumped up, and go for it. And there we go. I took down all the Widow Mines. He's still got some Marines, so I'm still a little bit afraid here. I'm just waiting for those last few Zerglings I've got building to come up. I'm doing long distance mining here, and I've just got to focus down these Marines, and then I know I've got it. He focuses down a muta, but then I keep transfusing the mutas from there, and he was completely out of mining, so it did work out. GG! Alright, that was actually so exciting. I really enjoyed making this little video, so thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate you all watching. Keep following me on Twitter and Facebook. Big shout out to all my sponsors, Western Digital, CM, Storm, Cooler Master, NVIDIA, and Gigabyte Notebooks. Alright, have a good day, guys. See you later.